Hello, welcome back to the Nothing Notable podcast. This is our 10-minute series that we do occasionally when stupid movies come out. I mean, cool movies that are very awesome. I'm going to start the timer now, y'all. And Dan, if you want to just lead off talking about Army of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder, written by Zack Snyder. DP was Zack Snyder. Everyone was Zack Snyder. And Army of the Dead pod starting now.
Okay, so I watched this movie. It has a lot of problems. I don't like this movie very much at all. I think it's full of genre cliches, and we'll talk about this in a little bit about irony and kitschiness and stuff. But like, let me just say at the top some of the biggest issues. One is that it's too long. That's a problem that we talk about with Zack Snyder all the time. His movies are just very, very, very bloated. And I don't understand why at this point in his career, he doesn't know how to, restrain himself, to contain the story into its core elements. That's one of the big problems. The character is very hollow. The dialogue is very stale. Reminded me of some Walking Dead seasons where like characters are just saying things that are so cliched. The dialogue is stale. Characters are cardboard. The movie is trying to be this fun genre hybrid of a heist movie and a zombie movie, and it simultaneously gives you nothing interesting or new from either of those two genres. So this movie doesn't really work for me. I like Dave Bautista as an actor, not so much the character he plays. We'll talk about that later, but those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, man, shout out to Dave Bautista one time. I cast him in a project I had to do for a class one time. I thought he was solid. Character itself, like you mentioned, not very good. Didn't particularly enjoy this movie, but mad respect to Zack Snyder. Huge inspiration to show us that like you can do whatever you want, and sometimes people will just give you millions of dollars, even if it isn't particularly a good thing. So that's something I think we can all agree to aspire to one day.
Yeah, Zack Snyder, the last two movies he's made are just his, and I did not like either of them. And just on Dave Bautista, I think this really proves that he can just be like that action hero that we've been missing for like 30 years now. Like,
you don't think The Rock's that guy?
I mean, I guess The Rock is that guy, but like Dave Bautista's on par, I think, with The Rock. Like, I think he can lead a lot of stuff, and I like Dave Bautista more than The Rock. I'll say it.
Yeah, so let's do the Dave Bautista part now, just because. Go ahead and follow me on Letterboxd, because I reviewed Army of the Dead on there, and the one takeaway was for me about this movie was like, Dave Bautista's charisma really just shines through in all of the parts that he does, and the thing that is interesting about him, why I think he is a more interesting actor, keyword actor, than like Schwarzenegger or Dwayne Johnson, is because there's this contrast between his incredible physicality, which is like this, he's just this huge, massive man.
He's
and
buff.
Super buff, very attractive guy. And then there's this internal side to him, this interiority that is very composed and sensitive and kind and thoughtful. He feels like, I wrote this in my Letterboxd review, but like you can imagine him beating people up, but you can also imagine him reading a book. And you can't really say that about a lot of the action stars that have come before him. So he's kind of like this very like contrasted and interesting action hero. And so that's kind of what shines through in this movie, is like the sensitive moments where he has a moment to just be reflective, and he actually pulls it off. And just as an actor in general, in interviews, he seems like he takes it really, really seriously, and he's trying to improve on his craft. Another keyword is craft. He actually really works and tries to hone skills. So I have the most hope in the world for Dave Bautista. I think he's got a really wonderful career coming ahead. And I think some indie director is going to put him in a movie like The Wrestler, the Mickey Rourke movie, and he's going to be nominated for a bunch of big awards.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, I think he should come onto the pod.
I totally agree.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. He's also in Knives Out too, so that's going to be fun.
That is going to be fun. Do you want to talk about, let's talk about the cinematography.
Sure, yeah.
And then that can parlay into just more Snyder stuff. This is the first movie that Zack Snyder was the solo cinematographer for. His movies have always looked very pretty. They've always been very pristine, very well calculated and carefully thought out. In this movie, I don't want to use this word because it seems very demeaning, but I'll explain it. The cinematography feels very amateurish. Not because he is an amateur cinematographer. He's obviously got a great sensibility when it comes to the style of shot making. But the choice of those Canon Dream lenses mixed with like all the shallow depth of field stuff, all the handheld shakiness. It just does feel to me like something that I would have made in college. You know, it's like when you first fall in love with a shallow depth of field and you just want to use it on everything, it kind of makes it feel, if it doesn't feel as purposeful when you're using it all the time. And that's something to be said about close-ups also. When you overuse close-ups, which I think he does in this movie, it makes the close-ups less punchy.
I mean, we didn't even get into the scene in the Snyder Cut with Jared Leto, but like that whole sequence with Jared Leto at the end of Justice League is literally just him right next to Jared Leto with the camera.
Yeah.
And you can't fucking tell what's going on. And it's the same thing here. It's like there's points in this movie where you're like, he's like going for like a claustrophobic type of thing, like in a zombie movie, but like this is like, again, this is the problem with this movie. It's not fun enough to be like a stupid action movie, and it's not like well written enough to be like an interesting zombie.
Yes.
Like the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead, like an interesting zombie story of like humanity and stuff. It's not that, and it's not stupid enough. So I don't know. I definitely think the cinematography plays a role into that too, just like being way too close and like not knowing what is going on.
Yeah, man. You know, a zombie heist movie that takes place in post-apocalyptic Las Vegas should be the most fun thing that has ever been made.
Yeah.
And this simply is just not that, because I don't think this movie knows what it wants to be.
Yeah, we spend the first like 50 minutes getting the team together, and like it's not a very interesting get the team together movie for those 50 minutes. And then once we get into Vegas, we don't get enough of the fun zombie stuff that we kind of wanted when we saw the trailer. You know, the 2 standout scenes for me with zombies are when they're in that dark like corridor of a Vegas hotel and they have to like sneak through the sleeping zombies. That's just like a fun zombie thing. And then towards the end of the movie, when they're escaping after they got away from the vault, it's just Dave Bautista and a couple other characters running through the casino and just shooting at a bunch of zombies. Like that's the movie I wanted, you know. Like I just wanted more of that, more like destruction and chaos inside of casinos and stuff.
Yeah, or when the elevator opened and a zombie came out and then turned someone's head around, I was like, that's cool, that's fun. Like I just wanted more of that, but there was not more of that. And let's just, since we're close to the ending, let's talk about Zack Snyder's endings as of late.
Sure.
As in his last 2 movies. I feel like they just set up for the next movie and have nothing to do with this movie. Like a character we vaguely knew throughout the movie. I guess technically he's like the second lead because he was like also in Vegas with Dave Bautista. But anyways, he was in a safe and then he like fucking Vegas got nuked, which... Thank God. Am I right? But he survives because he was in a safe. Like, cool, whatever. And then he spends like 24 hours walking to basically an airport and then buying a private jet. And then it's revealed that he's going to Mexico City and he's bit by a zombie. So the next movie that Zack Snyder has already written is set in Mexico City. And now this is leading into an Army of the Dead cinematic universe.
Yeah, we get a Dieter movie, a Dieter prequel, Army of Thieves movie. We get an anime series, which is going to be Lost Vegas. Okay, yeah. You know, good on him. The one thing I can say is that this is not based on previously existing IP. It was an original idea, so I guess that's good, you know. But that's about as good as I can say for the franchising of this. You know,
Stop slandering Zack Snyder. The man gets to do whatever he wants, no matter how good it is, and make millions of dollars. That's the dream,
that's
baby.
The dream. That's the dream.
I think I would be really good friends with Zack Snyder because he likes to work out. I like to work out.
Yeah.
We like comic books and zombies and all the same things. He seems like a really cool guy. It's just that the movies, they don't come out the way that you'd want them to come out, but they are exactly how he wants them to come out. So that's great. I was about to
say, they come out like Zack Snyder wants them to. So maybe like at the end of the day, we should just be thinking about like, if we were Zack Snyder, what would we do with, you know, he doesn't have any editors or anything, so we can just do whatever the fuck we want.
I got one big question though. Is it Schneider or Snyder?
I say Snyder.
Snyder.
Okay. I feel like I've heard all 3 versions of that during this podcast.
Yeah, I can't speak words sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm
I'll
right there
probably
with
say
you,
a
baby.
word wrong.
Okay, I have one last
Yeah.
thing I want to say before we end the podcast. Okay, so David Foster Wallace talked about irony and postmodernism many, many times. And I don't want to get too heady about this, but like his thing with irony is that it doesn't really substitute anything. It's not substantive because irony can comment on something, but it doesn't replace it with anything. And that's something that Zack Snyder does. He always talks about genre without actually
And that's
replacing
time.
God,
It's been
dang
the
it.
Nothing Notable podcast. This was our review of Army of the Dead 2021. I've been Tyler.
I've been Jack.
And I've been Daniel.
And this has been Nothing Notable podcast. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
And we'll be dropping another video this week when we talk about Bo Burnham's new comedy special called Inside. It's on Netflix. Check it out. We'll see you then.